the Steelers are done. 30-6. They lose last night to the Houston Texans. And now Houston is going to go on to play New England Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern, ESPN, ABC. That's a great game that we have for you here on our networks.
You nervous?
Yes, actually. I'm totally. I mean, how do you watch that defense and then watch the Patriots offensive line on Sunday night and not be nervous to think about, Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter and company coming after the Patriots when Will Campbell, I did not think was particularly good. I think was particularly good on Sunday night, their left tackle. And if you're thinking about New England against that Houston offense, which Houston's offense was not impressive at all, despite a 30-6 win, and they scored 23 points in the fourth quarter, and they had 2 defensive scores. But New England's best player, Christian Gonzalez, may not play on defense. Now, Nico Collins gets hurt last night. He may not play, so that's something to keep an eye on. And the Houston Texans deserve a ton of credit. D'Amico Ryans, C.J. Stroud, insanely underrated. They've won a playoff game in each of their first 3 years. We never seem to talk about it. And guess what? We're now going to not talk about it because we're going to save that for later in the week. That's when they get their praise as we look ahead to the next game. Because last night was the end of an era, potentially. Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers lose, and Tomlin now has 1 year remaining on his contract. Tomlin and the Steelers have lost 7 straight playoff games. That is the longest playoff losing streak for any coach since Marvin Lewis had that for the Bengals years ago. And 29 different NFL coaches have won playoff games since Mike Tomlin won his last playoff game. I am a huge Mike Tomlin fan. I believe they should figure out a way of continuing this thing. And I believe that you should actually lean into, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, what is his biggest strength. And I believe that is making something out of nothing. Mike Tomlin is too good for them to get bad enough to be great enough. You're never going to be in a Chicago Bears situation where you're going to have the number 1 pick in the draft. You can get Caleb Williams, and then Ben Johnson comes running as the hottest candidate out there saying, I have to coach that guy. Or even New England, when Belichick goes, and even at the end, I mean, it was Belichick's season that caused them to get Drake May. And then Mike Vrabel says, I got to coach that guy. People could say, oh, Mike Vrabel came back because he played there. Mike Vrabel did not come back to New England because he played there. Mike Vrabel came back because of that guy playing quarterback. We know that. So the Steelers with Mike Tomlin are never going to be able to put themselves in that position because Mike Tomlin is too good for them to get bad enough to get great enough. But what they should do is lean into the something out of nothing. And they should really make this nothing. Nobody on their roster of the age of 25 or above. They should rip the whole thing apart. No veteran quarterback. No TJ Watt, trade him away. Cam Hayward, all of the guys that may have value somewhere else, trade them away and lean into having nothing. Will Howard, your turn, and draft a quarterback in the draft. Take advantage of the fact that an overachieving year in the regular season, which is what Mike Tomlin has every year, the overachievement in the regular season, with that roster that I just created, gets you to 5 wins. He does the same thing, Smalls. He instills the culture. He instills the mentality. He overachieves in the regular season, but you finally get a pick, and it's a young roster filled with draft picks in the future. That is what I think they should turn to, and not Kyler Murray, and not Tua, or if Baker becomes available. None of those guys. Be bad on purpose.
Okay, a couple things here. One, does the fan base have the appetite for that? Because to be bad on purpose, you have to be patient. And as an organization, you have to be able to compartmentalize and block out all the noise. You have to make sure that it doesn't matter what is written about you, what is said about you, what the fan base is tweeting about you. If they don't buy tickets, you have to say, we are going to weather this storm, however long it takes, because we believe in the vision. We believe in the rebuild. Do they have the appetite for that in Pittsburgh? A place where you're used to being relevant and you're used to competing, at least for the playoffs. That's number one. Number two, you're assuming that he is the right voice and the right coach to have a young quarterback come in and to build him up. John Harbaugh just got fired from the Ravens for not having enough playoff success. Think about the way that the Ravens have been pushed out the past couple of years. We're talking about drops. Mark Andrews, Dave Flowers. We're talking about missed kicks. They've been competitive, and they've been right there in some of these moments. The Steelers are not right there, Ev. Their last 5 playoff losses have all come by double digits. They weren't in that game last night. They're the first team in NFL history to lose 5 straight playoff games by double digits. Last night, that defense was amazing, but C.J. Stroud wasn't anything to write home about.
No, he was terrible.
And they didn't take advantage of that.
Yeah.
They are I will repeat, the first team in NFL history to lose 5 straight playoff games by double digits. If you're going to go the tank route, you always talk about having everyone on the same timeline. Are you ready to commit to Mike Tomlin being that person for however long it takes? I know you would, but does the organization want to do that? You need to make sure if you're going to go down that route that you're also having the stability in place to not have to do this every year where we're wondering about the hot seat, where we're wondering about what the next churn is going to be. You need to be patient, and I don't know if they're there with him right now.
So let's hear from Aaron Rodgers, who, by the way, it could be his final game last night.
Or it could not.
Yeah, we don't know. Here is Rodgers on his feelings towards Tomlin.
What have you learned from being with Mike first season about him?
I've answered that a number of times. I've talked extensively about how I feel about Mike, and I just did in that answer. So, thanks.
All right, obviously not happy last night after now with a couple of teams here, and his Steelers season ends up the same way that Russell Wilson's Steelers season ends up, which is in the playoffs and one and done. He also, though, Rodgers, commented on the state of, in essence, the hot seat in the NFL. Because what have we talked about today? We've talked a ton about the state of Mike Tomlin. Is he going to be back? Is he the right guy for the job? Can he have a rebuild? Is he the right guy to put another team over the top? Should he want to coach the Steelers? Should he want to go to television? We've done the same thing about your coach, Matt LaFleur, who obviously Rodgers played for. Here is Aaron Rodgers on the state of the hot seat in the NFL with LaFleur and Tomlin.
I mean, this league has changed a lot in my 21 years. You know, when you hear conversation about the Mike Tomlins of the world, Matt LaFleurs of the world, those are just two that kind of I played for. And when I first got in the league, there wouldn't be conversation about whether those guys were on the hot seat, you know, but the way that the league is covered now and the way that there's snap decisions and the validity given to the, you know, the Twitter experts and all that.
Okay, interesting, fair, right? Except for this. Jeff Darlington, ESPN NFL reporter, tweeted something phenomenal in response to what Rodgers had to say. Mm-hmm. He said, I mean, I agree. Tomlin and LaFleur shouldn't be on the hot seat. But Mike McCarthy was fired by the Packers in 2018 despite being one of only 5 coaches in NFL history to lead one team to 8 straight playoff appearances. So not sure it's a new societal issue necessarily. You fired Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy's resume is very similar to that of Mike Tomlin's. Mike McCarthy's resume is significantly better than that of Matt LaFleur's. And you fired Mike McCarthy years ago. So let's be a little bit careful with that one, because we would be some of those people on TV and on Twitter that think they know what they're talking about, that he's referring to. Aaron Rodgers knows way more football than we will ever know.
Than we'll ever forget.
And Aaron Rodgers is way more successful in his profession, and even though we have this amazing opportunity here every day, than we are. But the reality is you fired Mike McCarthy. That is what the decision that you made to get rid of Mike McCarthy, whether you've kissed and made up now, is different. It's the same thing that your former team is going through and your current team is going through. Do we move on from this insanely successful coach because of the fact that the success is not good enough? Because Mike Tomlin has established a standard. And Mike Tomlin's standard, Mike Tomlin is great enough to put himself in that position every single year where we can judge him by that standard. Mm-hmm. And he has not lived up to that in the postseason. I would keep him. I gave my plan. I would tear it all down. I would do it with him. But that's me. Most people don't agree with that, Smalls.
So Aaron Rodgers obviously knows what a championship head coach is like. He knows what a championship locker room feels like. He's been there, done that. So he can certainly speak to this. And he has an incredible amount of admiration and respect for Mike Tomlin, as do I. But I'm going to default to what Mike Tomlin himself said in the wake of yet another one-and-done playoff loss. He said, when you don't get it done, words are cheap. It's about what you do or what you don't do. It's a results-based business. This isn't about Mike Tomlin's ability to be a leader of men. This is not about Mike Tomlin's ability to establish a culture. This is not about Mike Tomlin's ability to extract the best out of the men that he is leading. It's not about his ability to represent an organization, a franchise, in a very respectable and admirable way, which he obviously does. This is strictly about results. None of us think Mike Tomlin is a bad coach. The only reason we're at this precipice is because the results have not been good enough. And we're not talking about a 1 year or 2 year sample size. We're talking about 7 seasons. We're talking about a decade since he's last won a playoff game. I think the fan base has been patient. I think we, people on TV that Aaron Rodgers wants to say doesn't know what they're talking about, we're just looking at the results. And we also, by the way, are a vessel for the fans. We hear what the fans say, and then we have our conversations be shaped accordingly. And guess what? That's your paying customer. And if they're voicing their displeasure, it's our job to reflect that in some way.
All right, you just hit on something I want to continue coming up because in some ways, I don't know if you and many others are dismissing the concept of making the playoffs every year, or you're saying he's graduated from us caring about making the playoffs every year. Because the amount of fans that are listening to our show all across the country on great ESPN radio station, Sirius XM 80, the ESPN app, and watching it on ESPN2 and ESPNU that are saying, I wish my team was in a position to be in the playoffs every year, are probably jealous of this. But are we dismissing that, or has he graduated past that? We will get into that coming up. We're on Sportsmanlike.